The Flash, directed by Andy Muschietti, is the what seems to be the last film in the DCEU saga, and tells the story of Barry Allen, who is on a quest to save his family, travels back in time, and as a result messes up the future and gets stuck there. And it's his journey in trying to figure out if he can save his family while still going back to his timeline. Starting with Andy Muschietti, I was interested to actually find out what he's done in the past, because he kind of came out of nowhere with It. And he did a movie before that which was called Mama, and that was based off of a short he did. He's done a few other shorts before that, but that's all. He did a few shorts and then went straight into Mama, from Mama to It Chapter 2, and now The Flash. The Flash went through multiple different directors and writers and finally settled on him, and was a great opportunity for him to do something different from just the horror that he's done in the past. And I think he does a fantastic job of directing this. It has a particular... It's directed in an intentional, specific way where you can tell there was thought, there was craftsmanship, there was a lot of attention to detail. This movie is very funny, which I don't always lull. I lull sometimes, and I did a few times in this movie. The intro scene to this movie is crazy and hilarious, and one of the most creative ways I've seen a superhero movie start, and I appreciated that. It was epic. Onto the cast. So we've got Barry Allen, played by Ezra Miller, who does a really incredible job of acting both Barrys. There's a younger Barry and there's an older Barry, the Barry we know from the Justice League. And the younger Barry feels like a different person. It feels like someone removed from who we're seeing at the moment and the one we've come to know in the previous movies. And it was interesting to watch the dynamic between them. It was really, really fun. Michael Keaton as Batman, Bruce Wayne. He is pretty much what you'd expect of Michael Keaton. He's just amazing. He just is. It's interesting because you feel like this is a real aged version of the Tim Burton Batman. He doesn't feel like a character from another movie. He feels like the Batman we know, but he's now at the end of his life. I've heard some people talking about how great the action scenes were and how they compared to Batman v Superman, the famous warehouse scene with Ben Affleck. And I wouldn't say it's at that level. It's not that. That was really amazing. This was still great, and definitely much more intense and cool than any fight scenes we saw from the Tim Burton Batmans. But I think I wish there was a bit more. But altogether, just great. It's great seeing him. And along with that, every time that introduction to Batman and the Danny Elfman theme was just so cool. There's something, it just like brings you back home. You just feel like, oh, this is Batman. Ben Affleck coming back as Batman doesn't have as big a role. He's kind of got a few short moments in the film, and he does a great job. He's Ben Affleck. He does play it with like a nuanced sense. I think a bit more interesting than prior versions. He's a little bit more relaxed, almost like he's got a bit more control over himself and a bit more command over the role he's playing. Batman felt weathered and wise, but still had a touch of like a hint of charm to him. The one thing that annoys me, I feel, or not annoys me, but I just never like seeing Batman in the daylight. There's something about it that just feels jarring. They did it in The Dark Knight Rises, and I understood the reasoning behind it, but it just never felt quite Batman-y to me. It just is out there standing on the street in a cape punching someone. Batman at night is where he belongs. It just has that fear element, which the Matt Reeves Batman really captured extremely well. So Sasha Calle, I think you pronounce it that way, she plays Supergirl, which is weird. Supergirl, I feel like you got Superman, and then Supergirl, like we should be Superwoman, but it's Supergirl. And she fills the role so well. The costume design is just, I thought, was really, really cool. It felt powerful and it felt strong. She played the role with a really interesting like undercurrent of rage, but I wish we had more time to explore her as Supergirl. The moments where she is expressing rage and anger and hate, and they felt real and authentic. And yeah, I hope that we get to see more of her in the future, because she was very captivating in that role. The one thing I think about this movie that took me out probably more often than anything was the use of CGI and the quality of the CGI. It's not the end of the world, because the story is still solid. The story is great from beginning to end, but there's moments where there's CGI and you just look at it and it looks so CGI that you just for a moment go, ooh, that's not a real person. Or those look like a lot of plasticine men just like going in circles, or I don't know, it just felt sometimes a bit jarring. You can tell moments where it's like it's done really well, and then other moments where you're like, ooh, his face just did something funny. It's nowhere close to as bad as Superman's moustache that was rubbed out with Microsoft Paint, but it was noticeable. What really bothered me was when there were scenes where it was just him in this. It's just one Barry in the scene, but it was CGI'd, and I thought, why? Why is there's only a shot of just him in this shot? You could have just had him. I can't see any other Barry. There's just one person in the shot, but it was a CGI face. But besides that, there were a lot of factors around this that a lot of interesting aspects about this film that got to me, and it does have a really strong emotional theme at the end where I did feel something, which is ultimately what I want. I want to go to the movies. I want to feel something. The question it presents to us is, if you had these powers, would you go and do this? Would you try and save your family? And the caution from the Batman is, if you went back and did this, would you then prevent yourself from becoming the person you are? And kind of, reevaluating for yourself, the horrible experiences we all have in our lives, they do shape us and form us into something that we are. So we can't just undo them. The third act of the film, to me, felt like the middle. I was really invested in where it was going, and it felt like it was building and building and building, and I thought it was getting epic and really cool, and I was like, oh, now here comes the really epic thing. And then it doesn't happen. So the way it resolves is different though, and it's interesting in its own unique way, but it kind of, I think in reflection, put me off in terms of I was hearing about all these grand things that we might see, and then I was expecting maybe something else. So this being my first movie review, I have my Grand Masters list. So my Masters list will be split into 3 tiers. Tier 1, 2, and 3. You can think of it as great, medium, terrible, or chocolate with sprinkles, vanilla, strange European flavors that don't taste quite right. So these are the 3 tiers. And out of those 3, as I go on and as I review films, they'll all fit into one of these tiers, and I'll have an ongoing build of my list. The ultimate goal is to see where all the movies in the world really belong. And The Flash fits in the 2nd tier. That's where The Flash is. It's at the top of the 2nd tier. It's not a 1st tier film. It is just right there in the middle. For me, for a movie to be in that 1st tier, it has to leave you with a feeling and a sense afterwards. When you go home and you're thinking about this film, it stays with you. And I don't think this film stayed with me. It was like, I watched it, it was fun, it was cool, I saw some cool things, there were some cool cameos, and it was great. For any of you guys, if you've seen the film, leave your comments and your thoughts. Let me know what you think. Have you seen it? And if you haven't, why not? Andy Muschietti, if you're watching this review, give it a thumbs up, buddy. You did a good job. Thumbs up to yourself. I'll feel the thumbs up. If you hold your thumb up even right now, I'll feel it. Yeah. See you next time.